Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 435, Queen of Serpentine. The episode begins with Ash, Brock, and Max coming out of a Pokemon Center that was situated on a beach that looked out to the ocean. Ash, while walking, was talking about how excited and prepared he was for his upcoming Battle Frontier match in the Battle Pike. Max asked if Ash really was prepared, and Ash was about to confirm this when suddenly he was interrupted by Bonsai starting to cry, who Brock was holding. Max and Ash then got pretty startled and concerned when this wasn't just a little cry from Bonsai, it was an uncontrollable, beastly cry. Brock was a bit embarrassed by Bonsai's sudden behavior, but he had to expect it, as usual by now, so he knew why Bonsai was crying, being that it needed food. So Brock simply told Max and Ash to go on without him, so that he could feed Bonsai first, promising that he would catch up later. Ash agreed to go on ahead with Max, although when he asked May if she wanted to come along, she didn't respond, which made Ash realize that only he, Brock, and Max were together, and he wondered where the fuck May was. Max, who knew May's whereabouts, explained that she said she wanted to show her Eevee the ocean. Ash was a little concerned about this, fearing that May and Eevee would get too busy by the ocean and not catch up, but Max told Ash not to worry and left in search of May, who was presumably by the beach by the ocean. Ash didn't really want to go by himself, but he realized that he had Pikachu, so he might as well just go on and search for the Battle Pike, since it would probably take him a long time to find where the Battle Pike was even located anyways. So he did just that. Meanwhile, May and Eevee were watching the waves gently hit the beach, and May was really enjoying spending time with her new Pokemon, and she declared to Eevee that she would be sure to use Eevee in a contest one day, and they would compete together and be really awesome. And she also picked up Eevee and told her how cute it is. But then, her and Eevee's bonding time was interrupted by Max, who ran up to her, calling her name, telling her that it was time to accompany Ash to the Battle Pike. As for Ash and Pikachu, they actually had arrived at the Battle Pike by this point, and Ash's attention was immediately grabbed by the design of the Battle Pike building, which had a huge Viper head on top of it. Just then, the doors opened up to reveal James, Meowth, and Wobbuffet, disguised as Battle Pike attendants. Although Ash just thought that they looked like they were dressed for the circus. Ash quickly approaches them and introduces himself, but James and Meowth simply just don't even wait for Ash to finish his introduction and push Ash into the Battle Pike tent. And as the doors close behind them, James introduces the Battle Queen, the Battle Frontier brain of the Battle Pike, named Lucy. In actuality, though, this wasn't Lucy, it was just Jessie in disguise. Ash didn't know this, though, and immediately challenged Jessie, wanting a battle, thinking she was Lucy, leading Jessie to greet Ash and almost call him a rude nickname, but she stops herself, knowing that if she did, then Ash may ask questions. Jessie claims that if Ash wanted to challenge her, then there was a few rules that he had to follow, and James elaborated, clarifying that one of these rules was that Ash's Pikachu had to be put into what he called the Pikachu Power Purifier, which would apparently purify Pikachu's energy, and James instructed Ash to put Pikachu inside. Not knowing that this container was just meant to capture Pikachu, Ash eagerly agreed, thinking that not being able to use Pikachu during the battle would give him a pretty nice challenge. And Pikachu actually seemed pretty excited as well, naively thinking that the container looked comfortable. Meanwhile, back outside the Pokemon Center, Brock was feeding Bonsai some more milk that it liked through the bottle, when May and Max ran up to him from behind, calling his name. Brock informed May and Max that Ash was probably already at the Battle Pike by now, so suggested that they catch up already, and Max and May agreed, and were about to head to the Battle Pike, eager to watch Ash's battle against the Frontier Brain. Before Brock, May, or Max could get a chance to move an inch, though, they were then confronted by three girls, and the blonde one, named Barbara, asked which one of them was Ash Ketchum, saying that if none of them were Ash Ketchum, then they had no fucking reason to even be by this place anyways. Brock confesses that neither he, May, or Max were Ash, and Ash had already went to the Battle Pike quite a while ago, at that. This absolutely enraged all three of the girls, as Barbara explained that the three of them had come to greet Ash on behalf of the Battle Frontier Brain, Queen Lucy, and also lead him to the Battle Pike. May was surprised that Ash would have any escorts, and asked if Ash was expecting them to escort him, with Barbara answering that she couldn't care less if Ash cared or not, or was expecting them to. She was just obeying Queen Lucy. This was about to escalate into a full-blown argument, because Barbara was really yelling at Brock, Max, and May, telling them to get the fuck out if they weren't Ash Ketchum, when, fortunately, Scott jumped in between the three girls and Brock, May, and Max to stop the arguing. Brock, May, and Max instantly greeted Scott, and Scott explained that the Battle Pike was actually closed today, and he was coming to say hi to the three girls, and basically tell them that they didn't have to do any work at the Battle Pike today, since it was closed. May, remembering that the Battle Pike's leader, Frontier Brain, was named Lucy, suggested that if Scott wanted to tell anyone that the Battle Pike was closed, he should probably tell Lucy, since Lucy must have sent the three girls out, right? So she had to have known and thought they was open or something. Or maybe Scott was mistaken, and the Battle Pike actually was open. Although Barbara cut May off and demanded that May address Lucy as Queen Lucy, not merely Lucy. Just then, Lucy herself arrives, which was just when Barbara was yelling at Brock immensely for trying to defend May, to the point where she was about to hit him. But Lucy's arrival was pretty extravagant, as Lucy threw a purple, spiky, Viper-patterned projectile, throwing star-esque thing, very quickly flew past Barbara. This projectile manages to stop Barbara from coming into contact with Brock, and Lucy addresses Barbara as her sister and tells her to back off. And Barbara quickly listens, so Lucy moves on to apologizing to Brock, May, and Max for her sister's rudeness. Brock, still holding his bonsai, was very, very impressed with Lucy's ability to quickly stop her sister, while May and Max were impressed with the entrance that she made, throwing the projectile. Brock, being impressed with Lucy, along with the fact that Lucy apologized to him on her sister's behalf, made him extremely turned on, as he instantly got down on one knee and declared his love for her, trying to flirt with her, as he did most women, but he was pulled away by the ear, not by Max, but by Barbara this time. Very unusually, though, Lucy was left speechless by Brock's kind flirting and was blushing, which made Scott, who observed this, come to the conclusion that maybe Lucy liked Brock back. Brock actually had a girl who liked him back, but Lucy didn't want to admit this, as she quickly got back to her usual composure, which was all cool and collected. So she got rid of all her flustered blushness and straightened up tall. Back with Ash and Team Rocket in the battle tube tent, Jessie, still disguised as Lucy, took Pikachu from Ash and put him inside of the container, effectively capturing him inside. Ash was about to ask if the battle could begin, but he looked up and saw a net fall down on him from the ceiling, trapping him as well. And immediately following this, Team Rocket did their motto and threw up their disguises, revealing themselves, including Wildcat, as well as Mime Jr., who popped out. Meowth then presses a button on a remote control that destroyed the battle pike tent, revealing that it was actually just made out of cardboard and wasn't even the real battle pike. The real battle pike was behind this tent. Although the real battle pike wasn't actually directly behind the fake one. First was the Meowth balloon. It essentially went the fake battle pike, then the Meowth balloon, then the real battle pike. And Team Rocket instantly hopped in the Meowth balloon and started to fly away, taking Pikachu in the container with them, as Ash struggled to free himself from the net. Knowing that he couldn't, Ash at least tried to have Pikachu save himself by using Thunderbolt, but Team Rocket just laughed, exclaiming how the container they had put Pikachu in was electric-proof. Just then, Ash managed to escape from the net with all his might being used, but also at the same time, Lucy arrived, running, as she threw her Viper-shaped red rose projectile at the Meowth balloon, causing a hole to appear. Because of the pop on the Meowth balloon, this caused it to go straight to the ground, with the container holding Pikachu falling out, since James, who was holding it, dropped it. From the impact of the drop, thankfully, Pikachu wasn't injured because the container had actually saved it from injury, but the container did break. So Ash was celebrated since Pikachu was now free, and Pikachu happily jumped into his arms, and the two hugged. Team Rocket, on the other hand, was not nearly as safe, as they crashed to the ground and were in pain. Just then, Brock, May, Max, and Scott, along with Lucy, came up behind Ash, and Lucy's sisters were there as well. Having ran to Ash very fast after seeing him with Team Rocket, because, they were initially just coming back to go to the battle pike in general. They didn't expect Team Rocket to be there. Scott asked Ash if he was alright, and Ash confirmed this, admitting his surprise to see Scott. May and Scott then officially introduced Ash to Lucy as the Battle Pike Frontier Brain, which shocked Ash, since he didn't think that Jessie could have actually nailed a person's disguise so well. Jessie, on the other hand, was shocked that she was actually seeing the real Lucy in person, and was kind of envious of her, because, Lucy was thought as beautiful too, and only she wanted to be seen as beautiful. She was also mad at Lucy for messing up Team Rocket's getaway, because, they were going to escape with Pikachu and all that, so wanting to get revenge on Lucy, she sends out her Viper. Ash immediately steps up to the plate, about to send in Pikachu to battle Viper, but Lucy stops him and tells Ash to let her deal with Jessie, since she was her impersonator after all, and she proceeded to send out her own Viper, so it was time for a Viper and Viper battle. Scott was far from surprised, since he knew everything about the Frontier Brains, really, so he knew that Lucy had a Viper, but Ash again was shocked that someone other than Jessie had a goddamn Viper. But Lucy's sisters explained that Lucy's Viper was obviously stronger than Jessie's, since Lucy was a Frontier Brain. Jessie heard this, and this made her even more angry, as she told Viper to use Poison Tail on Lucy's, although Lucy orders her Viper to do the same, so both tails clash, although, sure enough, Lucy's Viper was stronger, and sends Jessie's Viper backwards, crashing into Team Rocket, leaving Ash amazed by Lucy's Viper's power, and he only became more amazed when Lucy had her Viper use one final attack, Flamethrower, to burn Team Rocket and send them blasting off. Ash celebrates Team Rocket being gone, and Lucy's sisters congratulate her and her Viper's pure power, although Lucy tries to shrug off the compliment. Scott then officially introduces Lucy to Ash, and vice versa, informing Ash that Lucy was really the real deal this time, and also calls her the Battle Pike Queen. So Ash introduces himself to Lucy in return, and this makes Lucy's sisters, Barbara, get extremely angry, telling Ash not to make this conversation about him, but about Lucy instead. Although Lucy tells her screaming sister to calm the fuck down. Ash then challenges Lucy to a battle, but Brock interrupts him, reminding Ash that Scott said the battle pike was closed today, so they would have to come back tomorrow to battle Lucy. Ash was a bit saddened by this, so Brock tried to comfort Ash, and Lucy admired this, as well as the fact that Brock cared about the rules. Since Lucy had actually been the one to shut down the battle pike for today, as she just needed a break, but because she liked Brock so much, literally blushing because of this, she clarified that the battle pike was always open for people she considered good friends. Ash didn't understand how this rule reflected him, since he didn't consider himself a good friend of Lucy's by any means. But Barbara could see Lucy blushing, so she clarified that Lucy considered them good friends, so they were officially allowed to come to the battle pike, and Lucy confirmed this, officially accepting Ash's challenge. Although Lucy scolded her sister again as well, because she had yelled at Ash and the gang a little too loud when telling them the fact that Lucy accepted Ash's challenge. Ash finally realizes the truth and thanks Lucy for letting him battle, while May and Max thank Lucy as well. Brock thanks Lucy too by going up to her again to flirt with her, and he only flirts harder when he sees Lucy actually blushing. However, Max drags him away by the ear. Just like before though, Brock's flirting had massively impressed Lucy again, so she was only blushing even harder as she watched Brock get pulled away. Anyways, it was now time for Ash and Lucy to begin their battle. But first, Ash took a moment to examine the outside of the real battle pike, which had a Seviper on the front entrance and a Seviper on the exit. But without further ado, Ash and the gang, Scott, Lucy, and her sisters went inside the battle pike, where they met the referee, a woman with bluish-white hair. Ash then examined the stadium inside the battle pike, while he and Lucy took opposite sides of it, and Ash noted that the battlefield consisted of a pond with a lot of grassy patches. As Ash examined the battlefield, he thought about what type of Pokemon Lucy may use. Since Seviper was a poison type, he figured that Lucy would at least use Seviper, so he thought about what Pokemon could beat it. As for Lucy, she was preparing silently for the battle in her head, while Brock, Max, May, and Scott were sitting on one side of the battle pike stands, and Lucy's sisters were cheering Lucy on the other side of the stands. The referee then declared that the battle would be a 2-on-2 battle, and told both trainers to send out their Pokemon. So Lucy made the first move, sending out her Seviper, while Ash sent out his Donphan. May said that Donphan was a clever choice from Ash, and Scott agreed, pointing out that Donphan was resistant to poison attacks, so Ash definitely made a good call, since ground types were good against poison types. And he also stated how surprised he was to see that Ash's Phanpy, whom he thought was adorable, had evolved into such a fierce-looking Pokemon in the little bit of time that Scott had been absent. And Scott also warns, however, that even though he knew Ash's Donphan would be good, he also knew that Lucy's Seviper was good, and it could definitely find a way to counter the type advantage that Donphan had against it. The battle then began with Ash telling his Donphan to use a takedown, although Seviper defended itself by using a Poison Tail, because as Donphan was running in towards Seviper, the Poison Tail hit Donphan square on the nose. Although, thankfully, since Donphan was so bulky, one single Poison Tail, especially because Donphan was a ground type, didn't do much at all. Seviper then tried to use a Bite, though, leaving Ash to tell Donphan to use a Defense Curl to protect itself from the bite. Once this was done, Ash immediately had Donphan use a Rollout, since, because of the Defense Curl boosting Donphan's defense, a stat boost made Rollout more powerful. Since Donphan using Defense Curl increased the strength of its outer body, and since Rollout was an attack heavily linked with Donphan's outer body, the Rollout did a lot of damage to Seviper. Specifically, double the damage. Brock, May, Max, and Scott were impressed by this, although Seviper was still okay, despite the hard hit, and got back up, ready to battle. So, Ash simply told Donphan to follow up with a second Rollout, hoping to knock Seviper out this time, although Lucy tells Seviper to use a Poison Tail to counter the Rollout once it dodged. So, Seviper jumps over Donphan, dodging its Rollout, which caught it off guard, so it couldn't defend itself, as Seviper successfully landed a direct hit on Donphan's side, underneath its gray armor, having attacked from behind, while Donphan was knocked off guard. As a result of the hit, Donphan was sent rolling towards a wall in the battle pike, but Ash instructed Donphan to use the momentum from the roll to jump. Donphan does exactly this, kicking out from the wall as it goes in for a takedown on Seviper, leaving both Brock and Barbara shocked by Ash's strategy. Ash and the gang and Scott were even more shocked, though, when Lucy simply just shut her eyes. She wasn't paying any attention to Donphan's incoming attack whatsoever, which Ash and the gang obviously thought was stupid as fuck, because Lucy should have been preparing for the attack. Scott, however, realized that this was just Lucy's signature battle style that he had heard about. Ash and the gang doubted this fucking bullshit, and Ash just decided to have Donphan continue to attack, taking advantage of Lucy not doing anything, including not ordering Seviper to use any attacks. But suddenly, just as Donphan was about to make contact with Seviper, Lucy ordered Seviper to use Flamethrower, which hit Donphan hard, sending it flying back, as it landed hard on the ground, throwing up some dust in the process, leaving Ash and the gang extremely goddamn surprised. Donphan was even knocked down from the force of the Flamethrower, but he was able to struggle back up, since it really wanted to prove that it could beat Seviper, and was ready to continue fighting. So Ash told Donphan to use a Hyper Beam. Ash was very determined to have Donphan win with this attack, but Lucy knew that Hyper Beam would have to charge for a long time, so she didn't panic and had Seviper charge in with a Poison Tail, though Donphan kept charging up the Hyper Beam, even as the Poison Tail came straight towards it. The Poison Tail then makes contact with Donphan on a part where its gray armor wasn't covering it, so since Donphan was vulnerable there, Donphan was sent sliding back from the attack, but it still kept charging its Hyper Beam during this, and was able to fire it directly at Seviper. But right before the Hyper Beam actually struck, Seviper used Poison Tail on the water in front of it to stop the Hyper Beam, since the water being moved up by the Poison Tail essentially created a little water wall, so the Hyper Beam was forced to collide with that, instead of Seviper effectively cancelling out the Hyper Beam. As a result of the Hyper Beam colliding with the water, it created a huge cloud of dust surrounding Seviper, which essentially shielded it from view, so no one could really see it. This left Ash and Donphan forced to try their best to see through the dust, but they just couldn't, and May, Max, Brock, and Scott were a bit confused as well, not being able to see, and May, Max, and Brock were confused by what the fuck Seviper even did, although Scott explained how Seviper used the water as some sort of barrier to block the power from the Hyper Beam. Just then, out from the smoke comes a Flamethrower from Seviper. Thankfully though, Donphan jumps out of the way when Ash told it to, and goes for a rollout. Lucy simply counters by having Seviper use a Flamethrower again, but this time it aims it more to the right and scores a direct hit on Donphan while he was using rollout, much to May, Max, Brock, and Scott's shock. Donphan wasn't even stopped from rolling, even after it was set on fire from the flamethrower. So Ash told Donphan to continue its rollout and head for Seviper. However, right as Donphan was about to strike Seviper, heading exactly for where it was, Lucy warned Seviper to jump out of the way, and it did so, dodging the attack. However, Donphan simply continued to roll, and rolled up a rock right into the air. And since Seviper was up in the air after jumping, this meant that Donphan came in contact with Seviper while it was still on fire, so this did a lot of damage to Seviper, enough to knock it out, leading the referee to officially declare that Seviper was unable to battle, and Ash and Donphan were the winners of the first round. Ash and Pikachu celebrate, while Ash congratulates Donphan on its great job, and Donphan finally breaks out of its rollout, therefore getting rid of the flames as well. In the audience, May and Max talk about how great Ash and Donphan did, while Barbara and Lucy's other two sisters look sad and complain about Seviper's defeat. Barbara decides to cheer Lucy on, though, reminding her that she can still make a comeback, and Brock actually cheers Lucy on as well, standing up out of his seat to do so, and this makes Lucy blush. May heard Brock cheering for Lucy, though, and stared at him questioningly, asking him whose side he was fucking on, reminding him that he was Ash's friend and should have been rooting for Ash. Although Brock just stands up in his seat once again and yells that he was rooting for both Lucy and Ash, which made Lucy blush again, although Max got pissed off at this and pulled Brock's ear, telling him that he had to choose a person to cheer for. He couldn't cheer for both, and physically pulled him back into his seat. Lucy's sisters then tell her not to fucking blush and to regain her composure, and she realizes that they were right, so she regains her composure as she calls out her second and final Pokemon, Milotic. And as Milotic and Donphan stared each other down, Scott explained that Ash needed to be very careful since Donphan was weak for water types such as Milotic. Regardless, Ash started off the battle by having Donphan use a takedown. At the last second, though, as the takedown was going to make contact, Ash decided to change it to a rollout takedown, so he had Donphan roll at the last minute. They and Max were skeptical of this choice, since if Donphan was rolling this close to Milotic, this could give Milotic a chance to attack with a long-range attack, which Milotic was known for because it could easily use a water attack like Hydro Pump or some shit. Ash knew this, but he wanted to take a risk, although this backfired on him because, sure enough, Milotic used a Hydro Pump to push Donphan onto a rock, and this just amplified the damage Donphan took, so Donphan ended up being defeated in one hit, pleasing Lucy, as the referee officially declared Lucy and her Milotic the winner of that round. So now Ash was down to his last Pokemon, which he chose to be Pikachu, since Pikachu would have the advantage, being an electric type, and May pointed this out in the audience, but Brock and Scott were a bit skeptical that Pikachu could win, since Milotic was powerful in general, so the type advantage may not do very much. Ash was still a bit disappointed in himself due to Donphan's loss, but he persevered and had Pikachu start off against Milotic using a Thunderbolt. Much to Ash's surprise, Lucy does absolutely nothing to counter the Thunderbolt, just standing there as Milotic takes a hit. However, Milotic then manages to shake off the Thunderbolt by using its tail to basically get rid of the shocks, and it then fires a Hydro Pump directly at Pikachu, hitting it hard. While Ash was surprised, both Scott and Barbara identified Lucy's strategy, which was that she preferred to use offensive moves rather than defensive moves. She would just wait for her opponent to attack, and then attack back first. Basically, she focused on attack instead of defense. Brock immediately stood up and yelled cheerfully to Lucy, cheering her on, as she said that the both of them would make a perfect match, since he apparently preferred attacking moves too. Yeah, sure. Lucy blushes again at Brock's statement, though, while Scott congratulates Brock on seemingly winning over Lucy. Lucy's three sisters, especially Barbara, got immensely annoyed with Brock's flirting, and they shouted at Brock and told Lucy to stop blushing over such a loser, but Lucy couldn't help it and continued to blush. Ash admitted that he was impressed by Lucy's Hydro Pump strategy, although Lucy was too busy blushing, so she didn't hear him. Ash, realizing that Lucy was distracted by Brock's flirting, took the opportunity to have Pikachu attack with an Iron Tail. However, Lucy countered by having Milotic use its own Iron Tail, which was stronger than Pikachu's Iron Tail, since Milotic had used it more, and as a result, Pikachu was sent flying back, although it didn't fall over, managing to land on all fours, much to May and Max's relief. Pikachu then charges at Milotic with a quick attack, but Milotic counters with a very powerful Twister attack, which grabs a hold of Pikachu and slams it straight into a rock, and Milotic immediately follows up with a Hydro Pump, which throws Pikachu through the rock and destroys the rock, with Pikachu hurt as it landed on its back. Lucy then tried to have Milotic finish off the battle by using an Iron Tail, which made May and Max worried, while Brock and Scott were on the edge of their seats. But before the Iron Tail could make contact, Pikachu used a Volt Tackle to land a direct hit on Milotic and paralyze it, which was evident by Milotic having sparks emit from itself. Scott, May, and Max celebrated at this and watched eagerly as Pikachu was ordered to go use Quick Attack on Milotic while it was weakened and paralyzed. However, before Pikachu could actually make contact with Milotic, Milotic managed to recover enough to use a Facade to knock Pikachu back, kicking up some dust in the process, but thankfully Pikachu was able to regain its footing and was ready to attack, as Scott explained to Brock, Max, and May that a Facade attack did more damage to a Pokemon's opponent if the Pokemon using it was paralyzed, and because of Volt Tackle, Milotic basically had the advantage, funnily enough. While Barbara and Lucy's other two sisters cheered Lucy on, Ash was debating what he should do for his next move, but he suddenly got an idea, as he told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt on itself, right as Lucy tells Milotic to use a Twister. This was exactly what Ash wanted, though, so while Lucy's sisters were foolishly cheering for her, Ash told Pikachu to willingly head inside the Twister, utilizing the Thunderbolt that Ash had Pikachu use on itself before, as essentially Thunder Armor, like the battle with Tate and Liza. So basically the Thunder was protecting Pikachu, and then Ash had Pikachu start to rotate in the Twister as fast as it could, and use this high speed in conjunction with a final attack that Ash ordered, being Volt Tackle. And Pikachu proceeded to speed down the Twister with Volt Tackle and score a direct hit on Milotic, a very damaging one, which caused an explosion, with Milotic's tail actually having taken the most damage. And the electricity from the Volt Tackle may have started only electrocuting Milotic through its tail, but it soon progressed through its whole body, and when the dust from the explosion cleared, we saw that Milotic was surrounded by static and had fallen over. So, the referee officially declared that Milotic was unable to battle, so Ash officially won, along with Pikachu and, technically, Dawn Fan. Brock and Scott were very impressed with Ash's strategy, knowing that Ash had Pikachu use Thunderbolt on itself to increase its power, and then he used Volt Tackle while spinning inside the Twister to give the Volt Tackle extra power. And we then see a quick flashback of this. Ash then went up to Pikachu, who was standing by the knocked out Milotic, happy that it was victorious, but absolutely exhausted. Brock, May, and Max then congratulated Ash on his victory, although Brock was still kind of sad that Lucy lost, and Lucy's sisters were definitely sad that she lost, but Lucy was a good sport as she went up to Ash and shook hands with him, congratulating him on an outstanding battle, and stated that Ash had some really good friends as well, likely referring to Brock. Ash then thanks Lucy for the great battle as well, and since Ash had won, Lucy awarded Ash with his next Battle Frontier symbol, the Luck symbol, which Ash did his standard victory pose with Pikachu, displaying the awesome Luck symbol before putting it in his symbol case. We then cut to outside the Battle Pike, and Ash and the gang were now preparing to leave, but they didn't know where to go for Ash's next Battle Frontier challenge. Thankfully, Scott knew where Ash had to go next, and informed him that he had to head to a place called the Battle Palace next, where he would challenge the Frontier Brain named Spencer. Max proceeded to look up the Battle Palace on his Pokénav, and informed everyone that the Battle Palace was on an island known as Metallica Island, which was near the Seafoam Islands. And Max also stated that this island was very close by to a contest that was coming up that May could participate in. May got very excited at this, both at the fact that she could participate in a contest soon, and also at the fact that it had been a while since they last traveled across the water to go on an island. Ash and the gang were ready to leave, with the exception of Brock, who grabbed Lucy's hands and tried to flirt with her once again, asking if Lucy wanted to join them on their journey, which made Lucy blush. So now, Brock and Lucy were just staring at each other, both blushing. But before they could fuck or anything like that, Max pulled Brock away by the ear, leaving Lucy standing by herself. Ash and May followed closely by Brock and Max, then say goodbye to Lucy, Scott, and Lucy's sisters, continuing on their journey, with Ash super excited to get to the Battle Palace. Although Lucy and Brock say a relatively extended goodbye, and Max has to literally pull Brock away to make sure that he doesn't go after Lucy again, which made Brock a bit depressed as he didn't get to finish his full love declaration to her. Lucy just stands there as Ash and the gang walked away, still blushing, thinking of something. And we then cut to Lucy's house, which she had returned to, and she was now spending time with several of her other Pokemon, including Abra, Snorlax, Cyndaquil, Swinub, Makuhita, and Skitty. All of Lucy's Pokemon then greet her, and Lucy greets them back as she picks them all up to hug them, and she blushes as she explains to all her Pokemon that she had met someone today with eyes that reminded her of them. So basically, the entire reason why Lucy liked Brock was because all of her Pokemon had the same slanted eyes as he did. Is that like racist, or I don't know. Anyways, the episode then ends with Ash and the gang now on a boat, while Brock was standing at the back of the boat, looking back at the Battle Pike and Lucy, or at least what he thought was Lucy, because he couldn't get her out of his head, and he really wished they could see each other again. While May and Ash and Pikachu were trying to relax on the boat, but it was kind of hard because Ash and Pikachu were really excited to get to the Battle Palace to get the next Battle Frontier symbol, while May was super excited for her next contest and earning her next ribbon.